Do you want to be part of something bigger? At Siemens, we use AI to transform the everyday. Our engineering solutions drive innovation and change. We're leading in technology and building a sustainable future. Join Siemens and make an impact to transform the everyday. Apply now and be part of something extraordinary. Visit siemens.co.in/careers.
The more prepared you are, the least amount of stress that you're going to have to play with. And then when the situation comes up, we actually know what we're doing on those situations and hopefully can be able to perform at a high level.
Seth Parr, the head football coach at Anna High School in Texas, has rapidly transformed the Coyotes into a powerhouse since he arrived in 2021. Initially unfamiliar with Anna, Parr was drawn to the town by potential he saw during his first visit, and his intuition proved correct. Coming off a challenging 3-7 season, Parr led the Coyotes to a 7-3 record in his first year, laying the foundation for even greater success. By 2022, Anna achieved an unbeaten regular season and a deep playoff run, and in 2023, Parr guided the team to a historic 15-1 season, culminating in a dominant 26-0 victory in the Class 4A Division I state championship. In this episode of the Champion Series, presented by Signature Championship Rings, Coach Parr shares insight on effective preseason training for your team. He emphasizes starting early with a chunk and chew approach to enhance player learning and confidence. Coach Parr highlights the importance of balancing physical and mental training preparedness during fall camp, as well as delegating responsibilities on game day to maintain your focus as a coach. He advocates for self-care practices to ensure your mental clarity, asserting that thorough preparation leads to reduced stress and success on game day. Stay tuned for our Winning Edge takeaway following the episode. On today's Champion Series, presented by Signature Championship Rings, we're going to talk about creating a model that has your team prepared for the season, but doesn't wear them out. And so we're balancing that idea of toughness and making sure that they're also ready to go on game day. And joining me to discuss that is the head coach, the state champions from Anna High School in Texas, Seth Parr. Coach, great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So, Coach, the whole idea of what we're going to talk about today, this is stuff that you have experienced through trial and error. So we're going to gain a lot from your experience in an approach to doing this. And I think the best place to start off here is for you, this really begins well before the season. You're utilizing your summer, you're being organized, and you want to knock out some things early on that typically a lot of people wait till camp or even sometime into camp to get into. So we'd love to hear your approach in the setup to this.
Yeah, I think our biggest deal is break up things in small, simple steps, right? Chunk and chew is what they call it in teaching, and I believe in that. I don't like cramming. I don't think that anybody learns more when you cram something in a short time period. So we know there's some absolutes that we know. We know in the month of June, we're going to have them. We're going to focus a lot on the individual, but we have them for 2 hours. And then, so how can we use that 2 hours wisely and then knock some things out, such as we practice all of our individual drills and go through all that. So they'll know that. But when does 7-on-7 start and what things we can utilize in 7-on-7 to help us? So we install our what we call a cheetah packages, which is our nickel and dime, third and long, and 2-man or into the game defense that we need on most of our athletes. So in 7-on-7 competitively, we play with that group so they know that we work on their coverage. And sometimes these guys play the other side of the ball. We are a one-way. We only go one way on offense and defense, but with this little package and then that you can work in the month of June, it helps us get prepared for the season because those are the guys that we'll be working with and they get the experience. But we also think in July is a great time to install our special teams and then go through a practice, have it personneled before the season starts. What we don't want to do is the cram part. We don't want to get to the first day of August and we have to cram team meetings, offensive install, and then special teams install, and then all of a sudden you're in a meeting room for 3 hours, a bunch of 18 and below guys that's been proven that's not effective to do that. So we just chunk them out. So in July, we start with our install meetings on special teams. And the middle of July right now, what we do in July, I think it's around 18th and the 15th through 18th week, we have our quarterback that's been a starter. He's installing all the offense to the new coaches and the new quarterbacks right now. So I'm letting him teach because more learning occurs when you teach it. And then we're all sitting there asking questions. And then our team meetings will start the last week of July, where we were wanting to set the tone of what we think it's going to take on our pathway to win the championship. You go through your core values just like everybody else, but what we want to do with our core values is not only just explaining at surface level, we want to be able to show you where it shows up on film and show you why. So there might be an example of an NFL guy that said something on Netflix. Peyton Manning's a great one for leadership that we go and we'll make sure it cuts it up. Or somebody that's relevant to their time that might say something that's not what we're looking for, or they might be saying what we are looking for. And usually we try to collect a series of clips, put it in presentations to let them understand this is what we're meaning with this. It's not just a word. So we want all of our team meetings done before our first day of camp. That way, when we're going first day camp, we're going over a walkthrough that has the plays that we've already installed, and we're moving through it pretty fast, and we're just hammering out details and correcting mistakes, whether it's depth, a release, or a protection mess up, but we're not working on schemes. All right. So those are the things that we want to focus on before we get to fall camp. And when we get to fall camp, we just want to start when we're evaluating the tape is what we could have done, or maybe what mess ups or what happened, and talk to them and make them talk there in film and tell us exactly what's going on and correct problems. So correct fundamentals, drills, and skills, and within the scheme, we're not teaching scheme and then putting it into the film. It's just too hard for us to get. And also we think that the mental load of a kid, once you start doing the 3 or 4 meetings and then having all that stuff, they're not going to retain it. And, you got to be in a good mood in order to win. I think somebody said that the teacher appears when the student wants to learn. We want all of our players wanting to learn so they can hear coaching. And then when they hear that, they're going to respond. But if you're having to be up there and you're in a meeting, you get hungry and all that kind of stuff, that's not our best way to learn. So we're going to make sure that we have all that taken care of. I think also in the fall camp, once you get to fall camp, you have a plan put in place, what you do on how many hours you're going to work that week, and then you're breaking those hours up. I know the state of Texas kind of does it for you that first week because you can only wear a helmet and shirt, and you can't have contact. But what we're going to get out of that, those first 2 days, and then what is it going to look like? And then we're not going to do 2 hard practices in a row. So what we try to do is, if we have 2 practices, I'll take that back. We do 2 practices that are about the same. That third practice is usually going to be a situational practice where we're going over 3rd and long, we're going over 2 minute, we're going over NASCAR, we're going over 4 minute. We'll hit the field zones, but it's not as much running as the Monday and Tuesday practices. We also plan our strength and conditioning. That first week, we know that we're not going to lift. We've lifted all summer. We've had 19 weeks of conditioning. That first week of carrying a helmet on your head, and then putting shoulder pads on, and then the last day putting your pants on, we know that we're going to deload that week with our strength and conditioning deal and wait until everybody's body is adapted to that time that we think we can get something out of it, and not overtraining, because if you overtrain, injuries can occur, and we're not trying to lose any players at the very beginning of a year. The second thing we do is, once we get through our fall camp, and what we say fall camp is for us is that we're not planning for a team. So we're just focusing on what we do and we're not focused on a team. Once we get through out of that little area, we go to the game week timeline, which is then now we're planning for an opponent. And then now our week is going to change from what we do on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because now we're installing putting in what they're going to do against 2x2 sets on Monday. Then we go over third and longs on Mondays and 4-minute drills. So our most physical day is going to be a Monday. Our Tuesday, we tape it off, still physical. Wednesday is a day that we are doing situational, and we might not have to have everything on, and maybe it's half shell. And then Thursday is a day that we eat, and we go through a special team situations. And then on Friday, we have 2 periods where we come in the mornings at 10 and eat breakfast and do all that stuff and go through a special teams transitions on and off the field with our pregame. We'll go through a 2-minute, our opening plays, 2-minute, and then we focus on the green zone, which is our -1 yard line. And then we always are working 2-point plays during that time. All that stuff is done. And when we come back at pregame on around 3 o'clock, we're trying to get another practice in. We don't play until 7:30, but this practice is not going to be a heavy practice. But it's all the things that we don't do all the time. We work our bunch sets, our motions. We're not a big bunch of motion team, but we do have some stuff. We work our 2-minute drill again, 4-minute drill again. We'll be really good in our situation. We do 7-on-7 before a game, and then we work our boots and scramble drill. And the reason we do 7-on-7, our 7-on-7s are number 2s. So our number 2s might not get a lot of reps during the course of the week. So we feel like before the game starts, and we're talking about from 4 to 3:30 to 5, we're getting a lot of number 2s reps with 7-on-7, and then they do some drills. So we can coach them. The ones that are going to play, they're working stationary drills like catching over your shoulder if you're a receiver or something like that. And we feel like about it, and the more prepared you are, the least amount of stress that you're going to have to play with. And then when the situation comes up, we actually know what we're doing on those situations and hopefully can be able to perform at a high level.
Yeah, I think that's a good use of time to get your number 2s work there, and very detailed in what your approach is early season, camp into the early season here, and appreciate you sharing that. I know the other thing we talked about, and we probably don't talk about it enough, is that you really need to, as a coach, especially a guy who's got a lot of decisions to make on game day, you want to be sharp. I think any coach has decisions to make, but coordinators and head coaches for sure, is that you don't want to be rolling into game day fatigued either, that you need to make sure you're as sharp as you can be headed into game day. How has that evolved for you over the course of your career? And what are some of the things you do that you make sure you're peaking on game day yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my first game here in Anna, I was so tired. It was 110 to 12 degrees. Don't think I ever slept trying to cram everything in. Well, we're talking about cramming, but we didn't have a choice. We had to cram. And the bad thing is nobody knew what you wanted. So it's not that they were willing to do what you wanted, but you really had to spend a lot of time explaining their job and what your expectations were, have it written down and all this stuff. So I always keep a game day checklist and things that we can do. One thing I did was I moved my coaches, like my head basketball coach. I'm not interested in him coaching football, and he's not really interested in coaching football. So I give him game day operations manager. So he's my game day. He handles all my field stuff. And before I was trying to do it all by myself, but when I do that, he makes sure the officials are taken care of when they get there. He opens the gate. He makes sure that the chain crew's set. He has the flag, the VFW flag group that you don't want to mess up the flag. I promise you. All right. I get more grief over that. So he makes sure they're there. He's taught to them. He makes sure that the officials have, we try to be first class. We want them to have food when they get there, and we want them to have water treated right. And then he has his 2 assistants that are helping when the other team arrives, show them where their locker room is, show them where the ice machines are, how to enter the gate, and then give them their passes that they need for sidelines for security. He also secures the security at the gate. What you don't want is a bunch of people coming on the field as that doesn't have the right credentials and stuff. So you got to have a plan to put people at those places. We've had a big media of people that come and watch games like Dave Campbell Magazine, Dallas Morning News, all that stuff. We want to make sure they have food and they're taken care of, and making sure they have a spot in the press box, have them a nameplate, something like that. And if you organize it and then you can have that done by a coach, I always thought it was more important to have a coach being able to do that than maybe work a ninth grade, because maybe that coach's skill level was not high in football, but he's a really good basketball coach. Use your personnel wisely, and that you can get more out of it. So that gives me more time with my team. That gives me more time to focus on what I need to focus on. And all it does is you got to take your time in the summer and really break it down and think about what's going on. And then you have your AV team who runs the press box. You got to make sure you're working with them. And I usually have a meeting on Monday mornings with them, and we're going through the schedule, what commercials are going to come up, what's going to go on the video board, who paid for what, how long is the halftime going to be. All that is written down, and we're just going through the checklist. And the minute you don't do it, something's going to slip. And then with that, we have ticket takers and all that stuff who's working the game. And I got a person that does all that, but we go through it and I meet with them, say, here's what we're going to do. Do you use cash? Do you pay online? We went to a great option called everybody can buy a ticket online. Here's the problem with that. Our website, our internet wasn't big enough to do it. So we're selling out. We got some ticked off people that can't buy a ticket. So what do you do? And then those questions are going to come to you. And you got some people that are very black and white. If you don't have a ticket, you're in. And my train of thought, and I went over there and told them, I said, let everybody in. Because it was general admission. Everybody had already bought their season tickets. They're going to buy hot dogs. They're going to buy popcorn, all that kind of stuff. So you got to have a meeting with that. That's one on my list. What happens if we ever did this and it didn't work? You go through your what ifs, and then you make sure your what ifs are done prior, and the people who are making the decisions know, in case of scenario, this is kind of how he would want me to think. And then you don't do that on varsity game day. You got JVs, you got junior high, so you get a lot of practice.
Right. How about the mental process for you? I think is great. If you're an AD, if you have some of those responsibilities that a lot of coaches do, you certainly want to delegate that so your focus can be on the team on game day. What kinds of things are you doing to make sure you're ready, your focus is on the team? What's your routine like? What's that checklist for you as the head coach?
Well, I game plan throughout the week. I'm not somebody that says you have to have it done on Sunday night. So I use my time. If I'm having to do that and I'm running on fumes and I'm not very good, that part of the plan might not be very good. So I break it up. I know what I'm working on Sunday for Monday's practice. I know what I'm working on Tuesday for Tuesday's practice, Wednesday, Thursday, and I go up to Friday. And now I'm chunking it like the small, simple steps like you're doing, but I get to concentrate on what that is. Now, things that I need to do and I could do better. You really got to have to be not rude, but you got to hide. Everybody wants you. Everybody needs a question. Everybody all something. So you got to explain to people or find a good hiding spot where you can watch and you can plan without anybody coming in there thinking, hey, I don't mean to bother you. Yeah, but they are bothering you. And they don't mean to, but it's taken away of something. So I don't answer emails. I try to put up my phone now. And when I'm done, that's when I'll answer a phone call from anybody. But I would suggest you win a couple of games before you do that. But I try to not make myself available when I'm planning. And then when I do have my availability times, I try to be as nice and courteous and hammer out as many problems. I know all I need is like 27 minutes of nap time, and I'll be pretty good. Red Bull kind of helps me through a couple of those situations. Coffee, I'm a big coffee drinker, but I do think you need to quiet your mind. I'm a big reader. I think you should read. When you get up, I wake up real early and I try to read something. I wish I was as good exerciser as everybody else is, but I think it just takes a lot of time. So I like to run. All right. But on game day, I do plan a nap. On Friday, we don't have school on Friday. So we prepare them. We come in at 10 with the kids, let them sleep. We eat, we go through special teams. And then there's a block from around 11:30 to 2 o'clock that they don't have anything. And if I'm all done and I've hit those days the way I'm supposed to, I'm taking a nap. And I like it. Nobody bothers me. I go upstairs and then I get sleep and then I'm refreshed and ready to go. And if I have an out-of-town game, I do it on the charter bus. So I think sleep's very important. The problem with the coaches, especially me, is that you don't sleep enough and then you get fatigued. And you got to remember, eat right and sleep is very big. And I was the world's worst at it. But as I'm going through it, I don't want to feel like I usually feel on Sundays after I eat all the stuff that's left over from Friday night when I'm breaking down film, because I forgot to eat during the week. And now I'm trying to get a week's full of meals in one day and Taco Bell and everything comes out. And then I wonder why I feel so bad on Monday. So I think you got to really focus. And for me, the exercise wasn't for my body. It was more for my brain clarity. So when I started reading, I thought, hey, this will help your focus. That made it more of a connection to me than looking good. Listen, I'm already married. I think I've got that locked down. So I'm not really worried about my body too much. But I do like to win. So if it's going to affect my wins and losses, then let's work on that. It makes it more meaningful.
Coach, I really appreciate you detailing out the process for your team here and how that works into the early season and sharing what you do yourself. I think that's all helpful stuff. And again, appreciate your time and best of luck to you and the Coyotes here in 2024.
Thank you. And thank you for the podcast. Watch a lot of them and get a lot of good information. Thank you.
Here's our Winning Edge takeaway from our conversation with Coach Parr. I think the biggest thing to take away from this one is his advice about carefully planning and implementing everything you do, thinking about yourself as a coach and making sure that you're prepared and ready on game day as well. I think we've all been there where we've relied on too much caffeine, we've stayed up too late, and we come into game day having to do even more of that to make sure we're ready for the game. Find ways to prepare yourself so that on game day, your focus is as good as what you want out of your players. Be sure to check out our partners Vertical Raise for your fundraising needs, modern football technology for analytics and in-game decision-making, and signature championship rings when you win the championship this year. Links and information to all of our partners can be found in the description and on coachingcoordinator.com in our 10% toolkit. Follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.